Hey, it's Ollie, and in this video, I'm going to tell you 8 ways to spot a great language tutor. And this came from a question from Karen, who asked me recently, Ollie, how do you know whether your language tutor is any good? You know, this teacher who you're paying to supposedly help you learn the language, how do you spot a keeper? How do you know whether they're actually helping you to learn the language or not? So I'm going to give you 8 ways, 8 signs that they're good. Let's get into it. Number 1, first of all, they should make you feel comfortable. And this is the most important thing of all. It may seem obvious to some people, but lots of people never even book their first language lesson because the idea, the thought of speaking their language with somebody else is terrifying. Right? And this is really, really common. And so the number 1 goal of a language tutor has to be to make the learner feel comfortable and at ease. Because if you're tense, if you're stressed, then you're never going to be able to relax enough to actually learn. Your brain learns when it's in a relaxed state. So the language teacher's number 1 goal has to be to put the student at ease and help them relax. And this all comes down to your ability to be what's called a sympathetic listener. And a sympathetic listener is someone who will listen to you as you speak, really do their best to understand, interact with you, even if you're slow, even if you make mistakes, make you feel comfortable as you're speaking, and encourage you to relax and to try and speak however difficult it may be. So that's job number 1 for a teacher. If your teacher makes you feel that way, they make you feel good and relaxed, then that's already a very good start. Number 2 is a teacher who works with your interests. What you don't want is a tutor who kind of just brings their pre-prepared lessons into the classes. Right now, we're going to do this. A great teacher gets to know their student. They get to understand what it is they like, what they don't like, how they prefer to learn, the kind of activities that they like to do. But above all, like when you understand your students, what your students are interested in, then you can design lesson materials and topics around that. So if your tutor is working with you with things that interest you, then that is a fantastic sign. Number 3 is teachers who use different correction techniques. Now, the kind of classic is the kind of, we've all had teachers like this who will just, every time you make a mistake, they'll just jump on it and correct it. And I think a lot of students actually like this. They kind of feel that unless the teacher is correcting every mistake that I make, then they're not doing their job properly. So I think often teachers get a little bit conditioned to do that by students who expect it. But good teaching is about knowing how and when not to correct. And there are lots of different ways of correcting. You can just give a spot correction. You can make a kind of gesture like my old teacher Martina, who taught me Italian, she's the master at doing these fantastic overblown Italian gestures whenever I made a mistake with my prepositions. You can have techniques like what do you call it? Echoing, where if you make a mistake, the teacher will repeat the mistake back to you to prod you to think about what you've just said. And then there is the option of not correcting at all. So the teacher hears a mistake and they don't correct you, but they make a mental note and they let you know about it later so that you can keep speaking. All right, so a great tutor will use different correction techniques in different ways to help encourage you to speak and to think and to do whatever other activity you're doing at the time. Number 4, a great tutor will help you scaffold your language. Now, scaffolding is all the kind of pipes or the wood, if you're in Hong Kong, that gets put up around a building, right? And it goes up, and as you put the scaffolding up, that helps you climb up and fix the building or build the building or whatever it is. Scaffolding in language learning is a tutor kind of doing the same thing. So they're helping you kind of just take a step up, one step at a time, one word at a time, one phrase at a time, one idea at a time. So rather than just kind of letting you speak or interrupting you all the time, a great tutor will add in little bits, say little things here and there, provide words that you might be searching for, and just generally help you express yourself better than you would by yourself. It's called scaffolding, and a great tutor will do that all the time. Number 5, this is a tutor who will take responsibility for keeping the conversation going. You know, when you first meet a new tutor and you're kind of getting to know each other and you're just having a bit of chit chat, I've had tutors in the past who will, when the conversation runs dry, they'll just kind of sit there and say, okay, well, let's go and do some grammar now, or whatever. It's like, but a good tutor will actually put the effort in, a bit like on a date, you know, where the conversation runs dry. Like, you can't just sit there and silent. You've got to step up and take the responsibility for keeping the conversation going, right? And a tutor has to do the same thing, because what the tutor's role is to help encourage the student to speak. And that means the tutor has a kind of unequal burden in continuing the conversation and asking questions, nudging here or there, changing the topic, doing things that give you as the student the maximum opportunity to speak. So you really shouldn't feel with a tutor that the conversation is kind of running dry, or you run out of things to talk about. And that's a common complaint I find. You know, people tell me that they have tutoring sessions or speaking sessions, and they say, yeah, we just kind of run out of things to talk about. A really good tutor, with a really good tutor, that won't happen, because they will do everything they need to do to help you keep speaking and keep communicating. So that's number 5. Number 6, a great tutor will find fantastic, interesting, engaging material for you to use, or in class, but also out of class. And my favorite tutors are the ones who will will get to the end of the lesson, and then they'll say, okay, Ollie, here is some stuff to go and do outside class. I found this fantastic article for you to go and read, or whatever. A great tutor will do that, because a great tutor knows that the real learning doesn't happen in the lesson. The real learning happens after the lesson, when you go off and you learn in your own time. So if you find that your tutor's giving you cool stuff to use outside the lesson, that's a very good sign. The 7th sign of a great tutor is a tutor who has a memory that lasts longer than one lesson. So ideally what you should find is that if you make a mistake or you learn a new word in lesson 1, the teacher will remember that in lesson 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And even a few weeks later, the teacher will kind of have this ongoing running memory of the things that you know and the things that you don't know, the stuff that you're learning, the grammar that you find difficult, the mistakes you make. And they will help, they will work with that over time. Because again, a good teacher knows that learning is not something that happens instantaneously. It happens over time as you kind of keep coming back to it and you work with it. You work with language more and more. And so a great tutor will bring words back one lesson after the next to help you learn them. They'll spot mistakes that you made before, and so they've got a what you could call like a multi-lesson memory. And it could just be that they remember it. But a great teacher will actually be making notes and actually keeping track of the things that you're learning and that you're struggling with, in order to, well, they can do lots of things with that, but partly in order to have notes so that they know what they can do with you in lessons, helps them plan new things for you to learn and things like that. And lastly, the 8th and final sign, there are probably many more, but I'm giving you 8 today. The 8th and final sign of a great tutor is someone who pushes you beyond your comfort zone. Now, why is this important? Often when people start speaking, they will have after a few sessions with a tutor, they'll have this kind of revelation where they're like, oh, wow, I can finally speak. I've just got so much confidence. And they kind of reach this huge summit. But then after the summit, after the peak comes the trough, right? Comes the big crash. And that happens usually, a few months after you first get that confidence speaking. And you feel, oh, you know what? Like, I have the feeling that we're just talking about the same stuff every lesson and I'm not really learning anything. And this is kind of typical intermediate plateau stage, right? So this is where you're stuck at an intermediate level. It's difficult to get that progress, and so it's a very common feeling to feel like, okay, in my lessons we just talk about the same stuff and I'm not being pushed. So a great tutor will always be pushing you outside your comfort zone. If they sense that you're kind of cruising a little bit, you're on autopilot, then they should throw little kind of bombs in there, which just going to wake you up and get you to think and push yourself beyond your comfort zone. Learning, having to talk about new topics or read different types of things that will keep you learning and keep you pushing yourself. Because we've always got to be pushing ourselves, be slightly beyond where we are comfortable, in order to keep making progress. So if you have a tutor with any one of these 8 signs, then that's a good thing. If you have a tutor with all 8 of them, then please email me their phone number, because I'd like to I'd like to talk to them. Anyway, that's it for now. Hope that was useful. Please hit the like button on this video if this was useful. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you back for the next video.